Hello and welcome to the Eye on the U podcast, the Miami Herald's Miami Hurricanes podcast. I'm David Wilson, and I'm joined, as always, on the other line by Susan Miller-Degnan, our Hurricanes beat writer here at the Herald. Susan, what's going on?
Working on some football stories.
Yeah, it's we've actually got some stuff to talk about this week because we got to see a full scrimmage on Saturday, as I'm sure a lot of our listeners did also. It was seemed like a pretty good. We were in a tough spot to see exactly what the crowd was. But it seemed like a pretty good crowd for a Saturday morning when it was 90 degrees in Miami and on a Saturday. Pretty good turnout, it looked like, from the Miami fans. And I think we actually got to see a pretty decent amount. You know, there's only so much you can get from a scrimmage. We didn't see like trick plays necessarily or anything. But it was fun, especially some of the guys we actually talked about last week. We were excited to see some of those newcomers. Were really impressive, just guys that we had maybe an inkling of what they were going to do, guys who we, in the case of Mark Fletcher, who's one guy we're going to talk about a lot today. I'd seen him play in high school, was excited to see him at the college level. So we've got a pretty good amount to talk about.
Great fun. It was
fun. It was a good time.
It was the most fun we've had
at a practice in a long time. Yeah.
Like a super long time. Yeah.
In the meantime, obviously the season is suddenly very close, 2 weeks away when people will be listening to this. This weekend, be sure to check out, we kind of kick off our preview week at the Herald. So Susan will have a big story coming. Might be up, I guess, by the time this is up or around the same time.
Maybe. Yep.
A big feature on, I guess we can give away Tyler Van Dyke.
Sure.
And that'll lead up our final week of preview before the season starts, basically. But let's start with that scrimmage because, like I said, there's kind of a lot to talk about.
There is.
Where should we start? There's a lot of different places we can go.
Well, why don't we start with
should we just go big picture? What do you think? Would like anything really stand out to you that made you maybe feel differently about this team than you did a week ago?
Yeah, the run game.
Yes.
Run game made me happy. We really hadn't taught until this week. We did get 3. We're supposed to get 4. We got 3 running backs to talk to this week, which was really fun also. But they're the ones that kind of made the big splash, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Mark Fletcher scored 2 touchdowns. AJ Allen, the transfer from Nebraska. We weren't keeping stats, but probably topped 100 yards on the ground. He had a couple, I think a 50-yard run.
Yep.
A lot of, splash plays, 10+ yard runs. Yeah, those guys were 2 guys. I mean, I was pretty confident Mark Fletcher was going to be good at some point. You never know as a freshman. AJ Allen was a guy I didn't know a whole lot about coming from Nebraska. I know he had a pretty good career there, but it's not like he was a superstar there. So, yeah, that was definitely the big.
He might have been, but he got hurt.
Right.
He broke his collarbone, I think. Right.
So he was a question, an unknown, I guess, coming in.
Yeah, he actually had done well in his first 4 games in college, so I did pretty well. So yeah, it's really good news if they can keep those guys healthy.
Right.
Those are nice surprises.
That's the key part of this all, and I want to talk a little bit more specifically about both of those guys. But the key thing here is, as we say a lot on this show, and we saw it last year more than ever, running backs get hurt a lot. And Miami last year, we thought going into the year, they maybe had a decent, I think, trio we felt pretty good about, right? Obviously, Henry Parrish, I guess 4 guys. Henry Parrish, Donald Chaney, Jalen Knighton, and the freshman Trevante Citizen. And 2 of those guys get hurt before the season even starts. Trevante's still not back, although
nope.
The expectation is he'll be back at some point this year. But Knighton is gone now, transferred to SMU, but they just added 2 more bodies who look like they can definitely play for this team. And Parrish is the starter. Like, I don't think he was good last year. He didn't play a lot in the scrimmage. I'm sure that's because they feel really good about what they have there. But they just threw 2 more bodies in there who are with Parrish, with Chaney. Chris Johnson, we haven't seen yet. He's been out with an injury. As I mentioned, Citizen is expected to be in there at some point. They've got potentially, 5-6 guys by the end of the year. Obviously, some guys who aren't hurt now will probably get hurt because it's what happens in that position, but they've got 5 or 6 bodies that like you got to feel pretty good about.
Really good about. And AJ Allen, he was fast.
Yeah.
He was very
And
fast.
shifty too, right? It's like there's one thing to be fast, it's one thing to be big and strong, but that's that next level is had that little bit of change of direction, which he had.
Yeah, he did.
One of his long runs, he like went, it was like a stretch, I think it was a stretch run to the left, and he cut it back all the way across the field and ends up on the other sideline after like a 30-yard gain. So
yeah, and Mark Fletcher, wow, is he impressive, David? I know you covered him.
Yeah.
And you know him really well from high school, and I just know him from talking on the phone before the season. Really, really liked him when I was talking on the phone, but he seems so genuine. He seems so like happy to see us.
Yeah, another one of those. Like we talked last week about how all these freshmen, they're all like, no matter what they are as football players, for the most part, it's like a group of like high character guys, and he fits that bill.
Yeah, exactly. What you said is true, and Mark Fletcher, and we were interviewing him this week, and he looked great. I mean, his body looks really fit, really just toned and fit and muscular, and he looks great, and he ran great, and I love his attitude. And I said, and I wrote this in the story, that I don't think they're going to be passing every single play. I really don't. The air raid thing, I think they have enough guys that they can keep everybody honest by having a pretty good running attack. And also Mark Fletcher made it a point to say that coaches told him that he's the red zone guy.
Yeah.
I mean, they were terrible in the red zone last year. I think they were 75th around in the nation. And they just couldn't punch it in, just like, I don't know, various games, I guess, Texas A&M maybe might have been one of them. Yes. But anyway, Mark Fletcher is
Virginia. How many field goals they kick in the Virginia game?
Oh my God. He's definitely going to be a short yardage guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at like what they had last year. Cheney gets hurt in the preseason. Not that he's a huge running back, but he's big. He was, bigger than Fletcher. Right. Trevante Citizen, again, was just a freshman last year, but he's big too. Like he looks like an NFL running back. 6'1", 220 is listed at.
Right.
Fletcher is listed at 6'2", 225. He's already the biggest guy in that room. Matt Franklin was the guy they had before, but Fletcher he's another guy who looks like an NFL running back already. That's a dimension that no matter what all these guys are going to give them, they just didn't have a dimension like that last year because of Cheney and Citizen being out. Parrish, who was really good, but I think second team all conference, third team all conference. Just a smaller running back, 5'10", 190 he's listed at, and
I think he's third. Yeah, and I think
that might be a generous.
Right. He had two rushes. He only ran, like you said, with twice, I think.
Who, Cheney?
Cheney.
Yeah, so I think only in the last game of the year. So I think he'll give them some of that dimension.
Sorry. No. Yeah, Cheney, the last game of the year had you're right, had two rushes, I think, for 8 yards. I didn't mean Cheney. I meant Parrish had two at the scrimmage, had 2 rushes. That's it. Like he had the first rush, and I don't know, maybe
at the scrimmage, yes. Yeah.
I'm sorry, and at the first drive. So we didn't really see a lot of him, but
we know what we have with him, right? Like we know what he is for the most part, but they have new dimensions there.
And the other thing is, I love this. Fletcher said that he scored the 2 touchdowns, and he looked very impressive. And and he said one of the touchdowns, he like looked at us and said, "You guys could have anybody."
Yes, the first touchdown, I think we wrote it in our recap. He was untouched. That's the other part of the whole thing is if this offensive line is as good as we think it could be, like that line, they could run for a lot of yards this year. I don't know if they're going to have a 1,200-yard rusher because, as we said, there's 5 or 6 different guys. I'm still excited to see what Chris Johnson brings to this group whenever he gets healthy. He's definitely small. Like he looks like a freshman in a way that like Fletcher doesn't. Some of these other freshmen we've talked about don't. He's small, but he's
Yeah.
fastest guy on the team probably already. So
He's fast. It's just, you feel bad for the running backs who start the season injured, because to me, I mean, they're at such a disadvantage.
right.
I mean, even Trevante Citizen, I feel really bad for him. They've got to keep his spirits up, I think. I think that's a challenge for him, because look what happened last season, and now he's still not back. He had a major injury, major. And I think there were probably, I don't know if there were various ligaments with him, but just the fact that these other guys now are looking good, who knows what the coaches are thinking, and how, if they'll redshirt somebody, who knows, Chris Johnson, I don't know.
I would guess it's going to be a fluid thing, right? Like Chris Johnson very well could redshirt, but if Parrish and Allen get hurt all of a sudden, like that's the nature of that position.
Exactly. But yes, that was the position that was really fun to see. Obviously the offensive line too, but you said that they go together kind of.
Yeah. What do you think of Tyler?
I mean, I was pleased. He had some nice passes. He had some nice deep balls.
Hit one bomb to Restrepo. That was
incredible.
One of the
oh my God. Yep. Restrepo's catch. Amazing. An amazing catch. So down the field, and he had that nice pass to Colby Young.
Yeah. That might have been the best single highlight of the day. They were doing red zone drills, and Parrish goes up over
all the way up.
Daryl Porter, who's a smaller DB, but still like that's, to me, that I think both of us, we've kept saying that Colby Young is like the X factor in some ways of this group, the guy who we think can go to that level.
Oh yeah.
He can become like a legit number one receiver.
Yep.
That was another good sign of it. That was a play that really good wide receivers make.
A really good sign. Okay. He's more like an Andre Johnson kind of body.
Yeah.
They need somebody like that.
Yeah, they haven't had a guy like that. We might have even said this last week. I can't I can't remember. Like Daryl Langham, who was not as productive as I think Colby Young is going to be.
True.
That's like the one similar big guy. They haven't had like Lawrence Cager, I guess, but he never really panned out either. At Miami, obviously ended up being pretty good at Georgia, and is now I think in the NFL. But they haven't had a big guy like that, and it's kind of interesting to see Tyler, as we saw in spurts last year. You said he had those back-to-back 100-yard games with Tyler, and then Tyler gets hurt and he doesn't even have 100 yards the rest of the year. The one thing that's really good about Tyler Van Dyke is he lets his wide receivers make plays, and he takes a lot of deep shots, right? And that was Mike Harley was a big beneficiary of that.
True.
Restrepo, we saw caught a deep ball, and he would, like Charleston Rambo, who, as we learned, was not the fastest wide receiver in the world, right? He's not in the NFL because his times weren't very good, but he was trusting Charleston Rambo, who wasn't just straight up running past guys and getting wide open every time. He was trusting, I can put a ball in a good place where only my receiver can get it, and if I'm a little off, my wide receiver can make that play. Charleston Rambo is very good at that, and Colby Young has a chance to, obviously a very different player than Rambo, probably slower, definitely bigger. He's gonna let Colby Young try to jump over guys, and he plays to his wide receiver strength, I think, in some ways.
Yeah, I mean, Tyler, I was pleased with Tyler. I really was. Now,
I thought he looked like he was moving a little bit better too, just in the pocket. The defense did rack up a bunch of sacks late in the scrimmage. We were not paying super close attention to which line combos were in, so I don't want to read necessarily too much into the blocking and tackling portion, blocking and sacking portion of the game, but the defensive line settled in as the game went on.
Yes, for sure.
But it's hard to for guys like Tyler Van Dyke, you kind of give a pass fail, and he definitely passed.
Yes. What position you want to go through? You want to go through the backups?
Jakari Brown was probably the disappointment of the day, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Accuracy was not what you would hope it would be. he's a guy, I kept saying it when we were sitting there. I always think he's going to be better in game situations than in controlled scrimmage situations because his number one weapon, at least for now, is he is
Right.
big and fast and hard to tackle. And they're not letting people tackle quarterbacks right now. But just didn't seem like he took, again, one scrimmage, one practice.
But
Doesn't seem like he's taken that leap as a passer that I think Miami would have hoped.
It seems like, but there's something else. Like you said, the guy's a great runner. I know he doesn't like us to say that all he can do
he's fantastic. Yeah.
But he's really great runner. So you have to figure that when he's in the game, they know he can run already. We know what he did at Georgia Tech last year, for example. I mean, he's really good. So they didn't have to play around with that. They don't want anybody getting hurt or whatever. Even though you're not allowed to touch the quarterback, I think they wanted him to be throwing it.
Right.
He has to improve in his throwing, but he is a good runner. So, you got that. And then Emory Williams, the third string freshman, who really, I think he has a very good grasp of he has a better grasp of the offense for sure than Jakari Brown did at this point.
At this point last year, yeah.
Last year, and he has Emory is really very smart and
I think it's a more quarterback friendly offense too than last year's offense was, to be fair, but yes.
Yeah, so I think, but he's still a freshman, and but I think I think he's promising though.
Yeah,
So,
I feel similarly to the way I did about Jakari Brown last year, right? It's like it's easy to be a promising freshman quarterback. It's a lot harder to be a sophomore quarterback who all of a sudden looks like he's next up. So Jakari, I don't think from what we have seen, not yet taken that leap that I think Miami hopes. And ideally for Miami, Jakari Brown won't take a single snap all year other than against Bethune-Cookman, right? Or maybe in some other random blowout. But
and what's great is that he did play last year.
He did. So he's not going to be scared.
No, right. Exactly.
I like a lot of his intangible stuff, right? His
me too.
You put him in there, he's gonna be confident in the huddle. He's gonna make a handful of plays, whether it's with his leg or he does have a really, really strong arm. Even if he's not super accurate, he might have I don't know, might have a stronger arm than Tyler Van Dyke for all I know. He's gonna if you put him out there, it obviously depends on the team. You're not a lost cause, but if he has to play a lot of games in a row, I think it becomes a little bit more of a challenge, unless he is better as a passer than we saw on Saturday. Again, we saw one scrimmage. You see a little bit during practice, but there's not a whole lot to go judgment off of other than what we saw on Saturday.
Yep.
Let's wrap things up by just quick hits on the defense before we talk a little recruiting to wrap things up. The one note I had, and you might have others, just if you're looking back through what we wrote about on Saturday. Rueben Bain, I mean, we talked about
God.
I think he deserves it. Another couple sacks in the scrimmage. I said I don't think I've seen him play a lot of football games over the last 5 years. I cannot remember ever watching a game where he didn't have a sack, unless it was a game that was over by halftime and he only played 20 snaps or whatever. And even then he probably had a sack. There's not.
And he got better as the scrimmage went on.
He did, yeah. His sacks were at the end. Yeah.
Yeah, it was very hot. Like you said, it felt at least as 95 degrees or whatever. And they were really playing in that kind of situation, a game-like situation for the first time, tackling and all that. And Rueben Bain, again, he got stronger and stronger. And I think it was who talked about him? I think it was Branson, actually. Branson Dean did a story got posted on Wednesday about him, starting defensive tackle for Miami. And, he said that they asked about Rueben Bain, and he said, that dude goes like a vet. It's hard to find a freshman that can sustain that level of energy and that level of aggression. We ended with a 2-minute drill, and he had some crazy rushes full speed. He'll only get better. I mean, this is a 6-year senior who's good, who's going to end up starting probably. Defensive tackle. who's saying that about Rueben Bain. So, God, Rueben Bain is, I don't know.
Yeah, hard not to buy into the. I mean, we spent so much time talking about him last week. I don't think we need to say more, but
I can't. You can't.
But
help
it's hard
it.
not to. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard not to. But anyway, Dean talked to a while, and he's a great guy, very smart, very smart. He's helping a lot of the younger guys. He said he's very happy with the defensive line rotation. Nigel Kelly.
Yeah,
for Harvey is.
As we said, it kind of dawned on both of us a couple of weeks ago that this defensive line could be really good, especially if Rueben Bain is really good, especially if Nigel Kelly takes the leap we think he can.
Right.
If Leonard Taylor keeps progressing.
They've got a run defense. They've got
those are three guys who could all be. Those three guys I just mentioned, those guys could all be pretty high NFL draft picks. Obviously only Taylor's eligible this year, but all three of those guys we could be talking about as day 1 or day 2 picks potentially if they put it all together.
The run defense they've got to the Leonard Taylor and all those guys. I mean, they've got to make sure they stop the run.
Yeah, they didn't stop it very well on Saturday.
Worried about
the flip side of the scrimmage, right? Is you never know what's the defense, what's the offense.
Yeah, and a little worried about that. I mean, we've seen in previous years,
and I think they're a little small up the middle on the defensive line. They lost Daryl Jackson, obviously, who was kind of their nose.
So did FSU.
Leonard Taylor his strength is getting into the backfield as a defensive tackle. He's not
he's really strong guy.
He is. So Dean's gonna have to be that 3 tech, right? The guy who is stuffing, taking up blockers, stuff like that. I wasn't there, obviously, when you guys talked about him the other day, so I haven't gotten to see him up close in person. How big is he? How do you feel about just him as an anchor of the defensive line?
Well, it's funny. We said something to Matt Lee the other day, center, who said, he's a lot. He said he's a lot. He might not look huge to you guys, but he's pretty strong. That's what he told us. He said that he's hard to handle. He said he's very smart, and I think he's 6'2" and 280, something like that. Yeah, I mean, that's the one thing they're saying. They don't have this massive,
right?
No,
they don't have that zero tech, just eating people up in the middle. They don't have a nose tackle,
right? Right, but so that I mean, the run defense a little worried about. We could also talk about the pass defense. It looks like Damari and Devontae, the Brown brothers, are.
I guess before we wrap up on this, we should just run through because obviously everyone always tweets out, "Oh, here's who started the scrimmage." Offense seemed like it was basically the starting lineup to me. It's the line we've talked about a million times. Obviously, Tyler at quarterback, Parrish at running back, Restrepo, Young, and Jacoby George at wide receiver. Jacoby George again looked good. Just kind of the quiet.
Looked really good, by the way.
Quietly productive. I'm expecting a good year from him. And then Cam McCormick at tight end. I still expect that'll be Elijah Arroyo once he gets healthy. He didn't play in the scrimmage. But the defense seemed like a little bit more of a mix and match in terms of who was starting. I think we saw Goa at linebacker, but with KJ Cloyd instead of Wesley Bassint. Defensive line, I don't remember the exact alignment, but Jafari Harvey didn't start. I think it was Leonard, Dean, Rueben, and Nigel Kelly, I think, started. Again,
it was Leonard Taylor, Branson Dean, Kelly, and Bain.
Yeah, so we didn't see Mesidor start there, right?
No, but Mesidor didn't play.
Oh, right, didn't play, but
he hasn't practiced. I don't think. I'm not sure about him practicing.
We didn't see Harvey didn't start. And then in the secondary, just the ultimate tell that this was not just the ones; it was a mix of ones and twos. The safeties were Cam Kinchins and Markeith Williams. That's going to be James Williams' starting spot. But I thought that was a good sign, too, that Markeith Williams
I think he got run over.
Was out there, just he's going to have to play, get him some reps in there. It seems like he's the number 3 safety for now, at least. And then, as you said, corners. Jaden Davis seems like he's going to start in the nickel. And then they started Devontae, who seems like he's definitely going to start, and Damari Brown, his brother, is the opposite corner. So another freshman who
They like him.
He's going to play. Like if you're out there in
Yeah.
that situation, it means they're banking on you to play at least.
Yeah, they like Damari a lot. We'll have all these nice brother stories.
A lot of brothers on the team.
Yeah, a lot of brothers. Yeah, that'll be interesting defensively, you know, as far as defensive backs, as far as cornerbacks. But I think the D line's going to be good, and I think they're going to have a nice rotation going. So
yeah, they've got 8 guys or something. Jacob Lichtenstein, another guy who didn't play in the scrimmage. Anthony Campbell, I don't remember him doing. Maybe he had a sack.
He had a sack
late. I don't know how good he is, but that guy's gigantic. Like every time I see him, I'm like, he's like looks like Greg Rousseau to me. Like just tall. I mean, he's big too, but really tall. So they got some interesting guys there.
They do. And let's not forget Andy Borgalis, 57-yard field goal.
It's a good sign. You need that. We didn't see a lot from the punter, I don't think.
No, I'm not sure about the punter.
I don't think Dylan Joyce punted in the game. We actually couldn't figure out who was punting. There was a big mystery among the media contingent there. It was someone in a jersey that is not listed. Did not appear to be Dylan Joyce because I saw another guy in a 94. I saw someone in a 94 jersey on the sideline, which is Dylan Joyce's number. So punter's a mystery. Kicker, it's pretty good.
Really good. Really good. This is his third year? What year is this?
Third year.
Oh my God. That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's incredible. So.
Okay, let's close things out with just a little recruiting talk before we get out of here.
Okay.
The big piece, I guess, of the week, Miami flips 4-star defensive end Elias Rudolph from Michigan, who's very briefly a Deerfield Buck. Now back home in Cincinnati. Just gotta get those high-ranked kids, and I think a good sign anytime you can beat out someone from Michigan. Beat out Michigan for someone, considering what Michigan's supposed to be, especially a Midwest kid. I know he's got some Florida ties from being down here at Deerfield for a little bit, but 17.5 sacks last year at his high school in Cincinnati. So I don't have a whole lot to say about him as a player. I've never seen him play in person or anything like that, but good little piece of momentum to pick up before the season starts, and I think pushed Miami back at least temporarily into the top 15 of the recruiting rankings. So for all like the kind of like angst about the recruiting class, still has a chance to be a good one, but they've got to play well. I think that's got to be the big takeaway, is like they've got a pretty solid foundation considering they're coming off a 5-7 season. They got a chance to go up to another level if they play well this year.
I mean, I think they should just keep Tyler. I keep saying it, keep him
healthy.
Healthy. Yeah. And and go Bucks. And then they got a quarterback, right?
Luke Nickel becomes their first commit in the class of 2025. As a rule, I don't get excited. Luke Nickel. As a rule, I don't get excited about recruits more than a year out, but at least it's a quarterback. Like if you have your quarterback in the fold, it goes a long way. I keep making the analogy to Jaden Rashada and how he didn't even sign with Miami, but his commitment was still a huge deal, setting off this string of commitments last summer. Obviously, Luke Nickel, a 3-star quarterback, committing in August of the year before he can sign is not going to kick off a string like that, but it's still a selling point for Miami's coaches to say, we've already got this guy. Hey, why don't you talk to him? He'll tell you about what the deal is. Quarterbacks, you want to get those guys locked up early. I know that NIL means they flip later than they did typically. A lot of times you would get your quarterback committed really early and he would stay that way the whole way. It's not like that anymore, but it's a good thing to have a quarterback locked in early.
How about you? So you don't really care that much about classes 2025. What about classes of 2029? What do you think about that?
That I'm all about. 2029. That's going to be a good class for Miami.
It is. The 12-year-olds that are getting offered now. I
Two
wrote
offers already out in the class of 2029.
Yes.
You got your scouting reports ready, Susan?
Yes, I do. He's 5'3".
What's his name?
And weighs 130 pounds. Okay. And his name is Gregory Florence. He's 12 years old and he's about to start 7th grade at Palmetto Middle School. And he is he's a safety, a linebacker, and a running back. He's a brute as a running back. And so my sources tell me that, well, actually, he told me that he compares himself to Frank Gore, Frank Gore style. He said
Frank Gore, who was like retired from the NFL when this kid was born, essentially.
Right. And he said that his style is like Frank Gore in terms of speed, power, and finesse. And his favorite player is Cam Kinchins, that he inspired him to play safety. Yeah, he's very excited. And he told me his doctor said he's going to grow to 6'1". So don't worry, UM fans, he'll be fine.
He's got a lot of room to grow.
We'll be
also,
fine.
Also, Carson Bell was the other 7th grader offered. So Miami getting to work early, getting on them young.
Yes, and let's not forget this is terrible segue actually, but Francis Mauangoa. Okay,
let's close with this.
2 freshmen right tackle, offensive tackle for Miami, just made Bruce Feldman's freaks list as number 5 on his freaks list.
That's pretty good. Number 5 up there.
He said, I'm pretty sure I've never had a coach make a case for a guy quite like Mario Cristobal did for his 5-star freshman, quote, greatest muscle density in Miami history. Yeah. So 6'6", 341 pounds, 20.9% body fat, 270 pounds of lean body mass. And then he said his 1.72 10-yard split would have been the second fastest time recorded for all 300-plus pound offensive linemen at the 2023 NFL Combine. Amazing. And the only guy who ran faster was just 39 pounds. It was 39 pounds lighter. So anyway, his jump registered, I don't understand this, do you? 9,274 watts. What does that mean?
Yeah, I don't really know. It's
Miami has on record.
I'll just say I went to IMG around this time last year because Miami had at that time I think 4 kids committed, all of them signed also, I should say. And went to like just talk to some of those guys. I got there in time. I wasn't there for a practice, but for like a weightlifting session. And IMG's got their share of freaks every year. I remember when Maui Goa went to the squats, it was like everyone in the weight room stopped and gathered around. For a couple of guys, a couple of big guys, but for Maui Goa, it definitely kind of like brought the room to like, all right, everyone pay attention.
He front squatted 500 pounds.
Yeah.
Which is tops on the team. He's a freshman, and he bench pressed 425 pounds. I mean, come on. I can't even imagine in like 2 years.
Yeah. Freaks list, you can check that out at The Athletic. It's one of my favorite articles every year. Obviously gives you a lot of big school guys, right? Marvin Harrison Jr. is number 2 on that list, but then you've got number 8, a guy from Harvard. So like it's always a fun little like teaches you a little bit about all the teams around the country.
It is fun.
And Mauangoa, obviously the one Miami guy on there, but
and apparently all the coaches now, all the college coaches are, this is me saying it, bribing Bruce Feldman, whatever. They're just trying badly to get their guys in there. Couldn't you see Mario?
Oh my God, yeah. I wonder who else. So Mauangoa is on the list. I'll finish with one question before we go. Who would be number 2? Who's the number 2 freak at Miami right now? Do you think?
Oh,
I haven't thought about this either, so I'm putting you on the spot.
It wouldn't be. I mean, I couldn't say Okunlola, right? Because
he would be the other one. He's a really good wrestler. Like they value that like 2 sport guy. is
Right.
like pretty valuable in those
He's
things.
kind of freakish, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. We haven't seen a lot of him, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's on that list at some point. Probably I'd say either James Williams or Leonard
James.
Taylor are the two
Yeah,
for me.
yeah.
I don't know how Taylor is as a weight room guy, but another guy who's just like natural brute strength is pretty special, I think.
Right.
So all right, we can wrap things up there. You can follow Susan on Twitter, I guess X. I keep saying follow on Twitter, but I suppose it's X
please,
now.
Don't say
at
that.
X Miller.
Wait, I know that we're about to get bumped off, but did you see the X now wants people to get verified by putting they said it's really simple. Elon Musk, all you have to do is enter your driver's license and write onto Twitter, give them all the information and also do a selfie and something else. I'm sure everybody's going to be doing that.
Yeah. All right. So you can follow Susan there at S Miller Degnan. You can follow me on Twitter at DB Wilson2.
Yep.
I'll be out at a high school football game on Thursday night, which will be after this is up. So if you're looking for info on Northwestern and Chaminade, you can check me out there. Thanks as always for listening, and we'll talk to you guys next week.